They have only read one piece of evidence on this disadvantage. We have functionally won it, and we only need a risk of a link to win. And we cannot risk passing the plan at the expense of U.S. hegemony because, one, without U.S. influence in the Middle East, we are unable to end the war in Yemen. That's Horton 16 from the 1NC. And two, that the risk of a China-U.S. conflict, if we fail to balance and contain China as a result of a loss of U.S. influence and hegemony, then that risk conflict, which will inevitably go nuclear. That's Jones 18 from the 1NC. And our hedge DA impact outweighs their congressional oversight advantage. One is probability. Congressional oversight doesn't spill over, and Congress can't check the broader presidency because the president has other veto powers. That's Fisher 16, and 2 is magnitude. Hedge outweighs on magnitude because the conflict in Yemen will just get worse if we take away our arms sales. That's Posey 18. And we turn their Middle East stability advantage because arms are key to stability. First is instability. Even if you don't believe that things are completely stable right now, taking away arms will just make terrorism and instability much worse because Saudi Arabia no longer has that power to combat terrorism. That's Corey 18. And second is inevitability. In a world of U.S.-China conflict, that means that Middle Eastern instability will be inevitable and congressional oversight doesn't exist. And their one and only argument on this flow is the GY-18 card that says that arms sales decimate U.S. legitimacy, and that's answered with our Corey 18 card from the 1NC that says that Saudi Arabia needs the U.S. in order for counterterrorism, and without the U.S., human rights abuse will continue and worsen U.S. credibility overall, which outweighs. And failure to balance China causes a resurgence in the sphere of influence politics that collapses regional stability and economic globalization, causes nuclear proliferation, and causes a great power war, 2017. China wants to create a global system, one in which smaller powers defer to bigger ones, and norms of democracy allowed and not prevail. This trend could produce a sphere of influence world, but we're such in order to replace the one based on American leadership and only engender conflict. Too many spheres overlap in ways that would generate conflict rather than clean lines of responsibility. China would be more likely to challenge the U.S. out of area if it subdues strategic competition in its own region and sphere of influence. World would also crack up the integrated global economy that underlies human welfare that's lifted billions out of poverty in the past decades. It leads weaker states to become the victims of stronger, more aggressive, one emboldens American adversaries. It leads American allies to take self-help measures that they themselves may undercut American security interests as leading states seek to incorporate them into their privileged zones of control. Economic globalization would collapse, harming the economies of every major power. Such a transition will lead to the kind of hot wars that reorder the international balance. And hedge is key to prevent extinction. Kagan 17. Granted individuals' power space of influence is not a recipe for treason, tranquility, but rather an invitation to inevitable conflict. Competition in most spheres is necessary, and even healthy, the United States retains the capacity, along with its powerful allies, to enter challenges to the security order without a U.S. willingness to maintain the balance in far-flung regions of the world. The system will buckle under unrestrained military competition with regional powers. Unsolved disordered conditions produce fertile ground for the two destructive world wars. And onto the uniqueness debate. They have conceded this claim, which means we only need a risk of a link to win. Hegemony in terms of Saudi Arabia is high now, but passing the plan decreases our influence and thus our ability to contain China. That's Porter 18. And the brink is now Fisher 18. Countries that purchase American weapons by their militaries and their foreign policies to the U.S. Many cop between Beijing and Washington face an impossible choice between Chinese wealth and American security. Countries don't want to have to choose sides. Continental factor along lines that once as countries accept or manage China's growing influence. And onto the link debate. I already talked about it in my. I put it in the wrong one, but yeah. Onto cars. U.S. needs Saudi. They're our most important partner in the Middle East. Courtsman 18. Saudi Arabia is our most important security partner. Saudi Arabia needs the U.S. as much or more than the U.S. needs Saudi Arabia. The U.S. needs Saudi Arabia as well as ensuring the stable flow of petroleum out of the Gulf region. And arms sales are critical to military strategy and sustainable alliances. Thomas 17. Arms exports, a sustained part of the U.S. defense industrial base. Foreign sales constitute a relatively important part of the U.S. economy. Arms sales in the region may become a significant way for the United States and other external actors to influence Middle Eastern partners and political military outcomes. Middle Eastern states play a critical role in sustaining this industry. The Middle East has a particular importance for the United States. Arms in the United States made up 46.2% of all arms delivered to the Middle East, and decreasing U.S. arms sales causes Chinese and Russia fill in. Gives up U.S. allies and partnerships in important areas like India, Middle East, and Southeast Asia. Cavalry 18. Keep China down, Russia down. Friendly states and smart arms transfer policy which angle both Russia and China. It's in Americans' interest to choke off a large percentage of Russian export market as possible in favor for more closely aligned countries. The United States compete against Russia, tying India and the United States closer. America should accept that Saudi Arabia is going to buy U.S. weapons. U.S. domination of global arms trade is based on the world's belief that U.S. is used as a clout to advance its political and economic game, and a hedge key to stave off China. Box 18. East Asian countries look for U.S. leadership. U.S. rejection of the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the America First policy allow the transfer beginning to tilt the balance toward China. That would increase instability. Instability within South Korea's major economic driver. If there's one thing that business investors hate is unpredictability. Said the U.S. engagement with China, South Korea, and other Asian countries is more important than ever. China's representatives increasingly transparent ambitions for global dominance, dangerous behavior by North Korea, and political and economic transition, and South Korea are among many issues affecting U.S. interests in Asia. Only civic leadership will strengthen America's hand, and U.S.-China conflict escalates unconventionally, goes nuclear. Jones 18. The United States is increasingly engaged in global rivalry with regional states like China. For China, conventional nuclear war with the United States would be risky and costly. The U.S. military is vulnerable when faced with adversaries that resort to irregular strategies. China is spreading its influence in the Pacific by utilizing economic coercion, conducting a sophisticated information campaign, resorting to fishing vessels to lay claim to islands. The gap between the United States and China is narrowing. The cost of nuclear war are dangerous. War could lead to tens or hundreds of thousands of dead soldiers and civilians, domestic unrest, billions of dollars in economic damages, and global economic downturn, and the potential collapse of long-held alliances. The conflict that lead to nuclear war, both the United States and China would also suffer huge numbers of military and civilian deaths and large-scale destruction of their military forces. Oh, the United States is vulnerable. Yep. That was the last line of the card.